God. So I just want to put it out there. When I was a little girl, I had a great grandma, and she definitely knew Jesus, and she talked to him all day long. And when I was that little, I was about 5. I thought she was insane. I thought she was crazy. I didn't understand who she was talking to, and literally all day long she talked to him. She asked him everything before she did anything. She'd ask him, "What do you think? What do you think, Jesus?" And so now that I know him, I understand where she's coming from. So it's pretty exciting, and I was lucky to have her. So there were years when I didn't hear from God, and I would get mad and upset about it until I realized I wasn't seeking Him with all my heart. I wasn't looking for Him. I was kind of putting out my little list of demands, but I wasn't getting quiet to listen. I wasn't spending any time in my Bible, and I wasn't trying to get closer to Him. So now that that has changed, I have gotten to experience hearing from God. So far that I can think of and remember, I've not heard his voice. I don't think I've heard his voice. But I have had conversations, and I have had definitely absolutely times where I was like, that was 100% God, and I knew it. And most of the time, the reason that I've known it is he came to me with a thought. And the way I knew it was him was I knew for sure it wasn't my thought. I knew that that didn't come in my head. So that was like pretty super cool. And that's usually most of the time the way that I hear from him. So I like that one. There was I'll share a couple fast stories. There was a time when I had like a really frustrating day, and I thought, well, if I go take a shower, maybe I'll just like settle down, I'll calm down. And it was my place where my kids weren't, so I could go in there and I could cry it out, or I could yell, or I could scream, and they wouldn't hear me. So I went and took a shower, and honestly, I'm ashamed to say I was cursing God. I was mad at him, and I was saying some stuff I would never repeat again. And out of nowhere, he clear as day did tell me. He said, "Stop fighting me and start fighting Satan." And that was big for me. And I knew exactly what he was saying. I knew what he was talking about, and I know that he knew that I needed to hear that. Um, and that one was a game changer for me. That's the first time I learned really how to fight a battle, and that it wasn't coming from God, it's coming from Satan. It was important. It was a big deal for me. Um, Another example of a time that I heard from God was I was again having another bad day, and I remembered people at church would say, "Well, I heard from the Lord from the Word," and back then I thought, I don't believe them. I don't think God talks through His Word. I didn't even understand what they meant. Um, so on this day, I was like really, really down, and I was like, okay, God, I need you to tell me something because I'm out. I don't know what else to try. So I just randomly, I even looked the other way. I opened my Bible, I looked down, I started reading, and I opened up to Isaiah 54, and I'll show you guys what I saw. My frustration that day, see it in the heart right there, Isaiah 54:4. My frustration that day was I was tired being single parent, and I was overwhelmed, and I was tired of doing this and tired of doing that. So this is what it said. It says, Isaiah 54:5, "For your maker is your husband." That like solved it right there for me. And for me, that was God saying, stop worrying about everything. I'm your husband. I'm providing for you. I'm providing for your kids. I'm taking care of you. I'm keeping you safe. I'm giving everything you need. You're not doing it by yourself. And I needed that. And that was so special to me. And I was like, oh, he's real, and he gets it, and he hears everything I'm saying. And he cares enough to turn around and answer it for me and tell me and talk to me. It's super special when you can hear from God. The last note that I have is sometimes I've heard from God through confirmations. I feel like there's just been times where I was wrestling with a decision, or had to make up my mind about something, or I just had this feeling inside that I was supposed to go do something. And to me, it kind of felt crazy. So I would find people who I knew were other Christians or believers. And so, one example is when I was debating quitting my job through the schools, which was an awesome job. I had a good salary, time off. It was a good job, and people, I didn't feel like I was in my gift, I guess. And so I was having a hard time being there, and everybody's telling me, if you quit this job, you're stupid, you're crazy. And I was like, but I feel like it'll be okay. I really do. One day I stopped by Hunker Main's class at lunchtime, and I just started a conversation with him, and he knew I was struggling with something, and I didn't even tell him what it was. And he was like, whatever you're struggling with, just put one foot forward and go. And I was like, wow, okay. And I still tell him to this day, thank you. You're the person that you said what you said. God used you. Thank you for saying what you did. And I did. I went for it, and I went to the next step, which was to start my own thing, and it's been amazing. And God has provided every step of the way, and I have 100% peace with the decision because I knew it came from God and not from me, so I couldn't mess it up. So anyhow, the only way we can have a relationship with him is to get to have conversations with him, and like I said in the reference to Isaiah 54, he'll tell us stuff that's going to hit our heart if we're open and if we're willing to listen for him. Sometimes for me, I struggle with it because I'm a talker for one. I'm talking, and he's probably like, shut up, Angie. And then I have a hard time slowing down and just being quiet and being still. That one's really hard for me. But when I do it every single time, he talks to me. I have a journal where on the right side of the journals pages, I'll write my prayers and I'll write down my thoughts. And then on the left side, I'll write and I'll circle it something that comes from him. And I have a whole journal full. So he loves to talk to us. He wants to talk to us.